Do I have this working? Is there audio? Yeah, there's audio from this view. And then no signal, which is because the computer's not on. Hold on a second. Okay, so we have audio in this view. Yes. What looks too small? What's small? No, it's two IKEA tables in an L, a power L configuration. And this is the only AM5 system that I have. Oh yeah. I didn't have the microphone set up in OBS for this view. Yeah, this is just a 3080 Ti with a little bit of sloppy. I don't know what that is. If you can see the white residue here, it's been like that since I got it. It was a new in-box sample. Not sure what that is. It's like a foam thermal pad or something, and there was a bunch of extra sticking out, so I kind of like tried to pull it off, and I made a mess. It looks bad. What's the meaning of this? The meaning of this is I went on Twitter about an hour ago, and I decided to ask people on Twitter what kind of a live stream they wanted to see. Did they want to see this processor? Did they want to see a desk? Various questions. Thermal paste application. I'm going to get into that. That's going to be controversial. Great. Yes, I agree. This is the best live stream ever. I want you to send me that 7950. It's not a 7950. It's a 7950X. See? So, Paul, I'm sorry. Hold on a second here. Should probably actually start doing something. But when I boot up the system, I want to do it live. I want you to experience the reality that is pressing the power button on this system. I'm going to give you a split screen view, picture in picture. So here right now, the system is turned off. HDMI is going out from this graphics card into a video capture card on the PC that I'm using to stream. This is not groundbreaking, but it is real. It's happening. So I'm going to power this on, and you're going to wait seemingly too long to see anything happen. But first, before we get into that, I need to go out and actually say that I'm live, which I forgot to do. I need a social media manager. Okay, tweeting now. Okay, now that I've tweeted that we're live, I can get started. But I'm going to make sure the chat is visible. Let's see, pop out chat. I don't know why YouTube defaults to light view. It's jarring. Okay, you want a motherboard, Josh? Well, they're expensive, okay? And I guess the pressing the button and waiting for RAM to train. Okay, V, that was the reality. RAM training was a big issue with this at launch. And the kit that we received was the same as everyone else's kit. It's this DDR5 6000 CL30 kit. It's 32 gigs. And it's G-Skill Trident Z5 Neo AMD Expo edition. And when I first booted this system up, I was sweating because I thought I had a dead motherboard. And I was already behind and started this thing up. Nothing happened. It was like 10 minutes. I see post codes and I grab the box thinking, okay, I'll actually read the effing manual and find out what's going on with these post codes. And there was no manual in the box. So then I grabbed the USB stick it came with and there was no manual on the USB stick. And I went to their website, and there was no support. So before I started emailing frantically, I did come back down here, and the system had posted, but it was a good 20 minutes or so for the first post. After that, after the launch embargo, anyway, the 26th was the review embargo. The 27th was the actual product launch. There was a BIOS update from version 1.10 to version 1.25. Took a GISA code up to 1.0.0.3 patch A, and memory training is a lot faster now. Overall boot times seem to be pretty similar, but first boot is way, way shorter. So here we go. We're going to go to split screen and first boot. Well, not first boot. I mean, this has been in regular use for days. Notice that the GeForce RTX is not yet lit. Now it is. Okay, so now this is initialized. Still no signal. Okay, here we go. Now we have a cursor. Once we have the blinking line, it takes about 5-6 seconds to see the BIOS splash screen. Then the operating system starts to load. This is the fastest I've had this system booting to this point. So here we go. We're at a desktop. I don't know how long that took because I wasn't timing it, but that's how long it takes. Apologies for the wind noise, if there is any, because that's just the fans turned up to 100%. See, it's not that bad. It's really no different from any kind of high-end desktop system that I've used recently, such as X299, like the Intel platform I use for streaming. It takes a while to initialize and boot up. So I usually hit the power button, go do something, come back, and it's booted up. So this isn't going to be power button to desktop in 20 seconds, but it's not terrible. So while I enter... Oh, I forgot I had to make a password. Let's see. So we're here to this Windows 11 desktop now, which is probably set to some crazy resolution. It defaults to, I think, 4K, 300% scaling. No, it's still set to 1080. But why is it scaled? Okay, 100% is fine. Or is that too small? Should I use scaling? Now all the icons are messed up. I wanted to point out a couple of things. I have not installed, obviously, the 7900X yet. It's actually still factory sealed. But I wanted to point something out here because this has been confusing me a little bit. If you open up CPU-Z, I know a good Linux install would be better. I wouldn't have access to as many native applications necessarily, but that's another topic. So here's CPU-Z. Look at the bus speed. We're roughly 100 megahertz, 99.87, 99.95, close enough. And if you look at memory, right at about 3000 megahertz. If I open up HW Info 64, and this is the latest beta version of it as of today, I believe this is the October 3 build. I don't know if it's a new version yet. Now look at the CPU frequency in HW Info 64. Where is it? It's up here. What am I doing? Okay, right here. This line. It shows 95.6. When I first started testing on the original AGISA code, it said 91.1, I think. It settled on like 92 point something. The monitor tools just don't seem to understand this necessarily. CPU-Z is fine, but unfortunately, I've been using HW Info 64 to log everything. So then in the logs, it shows me inaccurate core clocks because it's basing it on a multiplier of 95.6 in this boot. It was something else on the last boot, I think. So, unknown. I keep checking for a new version. Like I said, this is today's. So anyway, this is running the 7950X, but it's running it with the PBO offset of -30, which is the maximum. If you saw the Optimum Tech video, or if you've seen some of the chatter about this, I tried doing what Optimum Tech did, which was a combination of a couple of things. First, I did the -30 offset, which they say is very silicon dependent. Doesn't work for everybody. And then I did the power limit. There's a preset that has like 125 watt / 165 watt. I think the 165 watts is the maximum. What is that called? Is it PPT? So I will just run. I mean, I know Cinebench isn't enough of a test. Like Hardware Unboxed video showed that Cinebench is not a rigorous enough test to guarantee stability with the -30 offset, because it's just not as demanding as a test like Blender, which is true. It's why I use Blender for thermal testing and not Cinebench. The runs are not long enough in Cinebench to really stress everything. I do want to point out this score, though. 38,249. I've been getting 38,200 and something every time. And before using the -30 offset and the power limit, my scores were somewhere in the 37,900 to 38,000 range. So just without doing anything but lowering the power limit and the voltage offset, I get slightly better multi-core performance. It's not huge. I mean, but it is noticeable in a few tests where the performance is actually better, and I haven't noticed any stability issues at all. It doesn't matter what I run. Like, I could run a Blender workload. I don't think you're going to see temperatures over 70 C. What am I doing? Render image. So with an ambient temperature in the room of 28 C right now, the temperatures are under 70. So like the die is at 67.8. The hottest core looks to be about the same. Oh, here we are. We just hit 68, 68.3. This runs for about 3 minutes on this processor. So not the longest test either. What GPU? This is a 3080 Ti Founders Edition. No, not a 2080 Ti. Look, it's got that modern design with the fan over here and the other fan over here and the fins at the top and the braided adapter cable that feels a little too flimsy for the job that it's doing. Why am I in an 82F room? Well, it doesn't feel like that. It's 70 degrees outside, so I'm not running the air. But then in this corner with this going, it's apparently close to... You know what? I think that's inaccurate, because I had this lacrosse technology battery-powered clock temperature or thermometer thing sitting on top of the streaming PC, and it takes forever to readjust. I'm gonna just guess that it's about 24 to 25 C in here. I'll keep you guys updated throughout the stream on the current most accurate temperature. As you can see, it's already dropped to 27.7. It's just going to continue dropping because it was sitting on top of something warm. Like if I were to put it on top of this, you know, we'd probably have a higher reading. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put it over here out of camera range. Kill a W Dog, Jay's 2 cents is correct. This is the same thing Bauer was talking about. The IHS on these things is very thick. I wish the camera would choose to focus on me. Okay, so this is the 7700X. Let me just take this out without dropping it. And I will show you just look how thick this is. There's a lot of metal on top of the cores with these strange little feet to support this monstrosity. And it takes a while to fully saturate something that is this thick, but then after that, it takes a while to actually get all the heat out of this, which is, you know, trapped against the cores. And in general, it just feels like if they'd gone with a thin IHS, they would have had way better thermals out of the box, but it would have broken compatibility with all existing coolers. Because as you can probably see, this is still using those two plastic hooks, and this is just your standard old, like, FM1, FM2, AM2, AM3, AM4 cooler mount. And this is a Silverstone 360 degree, I don't remember the exact name. Permafrost 360R or something. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the other. Is it necessary to see that? I guess it doesn't hurt anything. Okay, so I ran Blender. I actually got some higher temps, 74.1. That's the highest I've gotten so far. I don't know if it's because the ambient's a little bit higher or what, but... JW Dickinson, no, not quite. Your guess that it's an X58 motherboard. My audio is on the board cam feed. Hold on a second. Oh, there's no audio here. Is there no audio here? There's audio here. Let's see. Which one is missing? HDMI in is missing audio. Okay. So I just won't use that mode. Why are we live? Just because. Just felt like it was a thing to do. I haven't streamed in a long time. I had an hour or so to benchmark, and I thought, why not point a camera down at the desk and just live stream this? Yes, I've muted myself and unmuted myself. Sound is fine. Nobody really needs to hear me anyway. The audio is only on so I can interact with the comments. So anyway, yeah, we've seen the desk. We've seen the results. This 2 minutes 58 seconds to essentially 2 minutes 59 seconds, almost identical to the performance. It's like a half second faster than before I did the PBO2 stuff. So I'm going to close all this out. We're going to go into the BIOS setup, which, you know, is... I need to get this off the screen. Hold on a second. Let's look at that for a second. Thermal paste. That's going to be another contentious point I was saying. Because I didn't really prepare all that well for this. I don't have any high-end thermal paste. I grabbed a couple of tubes, and the stuff I had like brand new tubes of is this ZM STC7 stuff, which is about as average as it gets in the world of thermal paste. This is like your, I would say, probably 1 or so degrees worse than like the Noctua stuff. It's okay. I get, you know, large quantities of inexpensive thermal paste because I still use paste. I haven't gone to a pad yet. This just happens to be what I bought the last time. But I think this is the one that came with this. I thought this was funny. It comes with this small plastic spatula for proper thermal paste application. What is with the adult dating site stuff? All right, hold on a second. Hide user on this channel. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to shut this down. Let's go to the other view. Okay. No signal. Now we're going to go into setup and look at the settings. Yeah, Al, I agree. I think that the least of anybody's worries was having to get a new cooler when the platform is as expensive as it is. This is a high-end platform, and I don't mind them charging a lot of money for it. If this is going to be kind of like a high-end desktop thing, but we're conditioned to think that X299 and X399 boards are expensive, and if X670 Extreme is a super high-end board, then so be it. So these are the expensive ones. This board right here is like $600 or $700. This is the Meg X670E Ace from MSI. I think it's $600. So that's fine. But then also have the $100 and $200 motherboards, and we'll have to see where the non-extreme B650 boards come in, because what we've seen so far is starting at $200, which is not great, especially when you have inexpensive processors like, you know, a Ryzen 5 7600X, which is the cheapest one on this new platform, but it's still $300. And then on launch day, the cheapest board you could get was an ASRock board that was $259. So motherboards that are almost as expensive as a CPU does not exactly doesn't scream budget, but that's why they're keeping AM4 around for the budget offering. It's a 2 DIMM per channel board. It may be hard to see, but there are four memory slots. Okay, let me turn off the little corner picture thing. Okay, so we're in setup. As you can see, the BIOS version up here, BIOS build date the 26th. It actually was released to the public early on the 27th. And it's version 1.25, as you can see from the 0.125 here at the end. And if we go into overclocking settings and then advanced CPU configuration, you see you have AMD overclocking. Now here's the config TDP thing I was talking about. Auto, I believe, is what just puts it here. This 170 watts with a max of 230, 160 amps to 225. I chose this one right below it, which caps it at 162. So we can use 162 watts for boost. And then the, I don't know if that's within thermal limits, because it'll stay at 162 for a long time. So somebody more knowledgeable than that needs to explain this to me. But then you have the AMD overclocking, precision boost, overdrive. I haven't messed with any of this stuff. It's all on auto. I've gone into PBO. And I went into advanced, as you can see. And then under curve optimizer, I did all cores, negative, and then 30. So just exactly like the Optimum Tech video. And the results of this, coupled with that TDP limit, has resulted in virtually the same performance as stock, but with massively lower temperatures and power draw. And I freely admit that we're dealing with a sample here. This is the box that the 7950X came in. And as you can see, it says AMD sample not for resale, and they number these. So I don't know if like these were specifically binned and then assigned a number and then sealed in a box. I'm assuming so. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't select a better sample before you send out to media. But I really want to, now that I've done the power limit thing on this, I really want to get a smaller air cooler on this, which of course I could do. I could even use an AMD cooler from last generation and just see what happens, because even stock, if you watch the hardware unbox video, even with a Wraith cooler stock, it runs pretty much 100%. It just goes over 100 degrees. I think he was 101 degrees under load, which I'm not okay with. If I spent $700 on this processor, I do not want to run it at those kind of temperatures. Actually, you know what? If I'm changing CPUs, I should probably undo this. Yeah, what the hell? I'll just leave it alone. I haven't made any changes, I know. I'm going to power this off. You know what? I just realized something. Now that we live in the era of the LGA AMD processor, I don't have to make sure I'm always changing the CPUs while they're still warm. That was the key to getting a cooler off of an AM4 CPU without ripping the whole thing out of the board. Run it first. Get it warm down there. Then you can easily do the wiggle and pull it off and not rip your CPU out. But with the LGA socket, you can be a lot more careless, which is a plus. So we're getting the GPU out, and as you can see, this is, in fact, an NVIDIA RTX 3080 Ti Founders Edition card. I don't have a 3090 Ti, or I probably would be using that. We have a 3090, but not a 3090 Ti. And not actually, I don't have a Founders Edition of 3090 either. It's the Supreme from MSI, which is, as large as this motherboard, essentially. So I got this started. Someday we'll be past these two black plastic things. I just realized I don't have anything down here to clean excess thermal paste with. This is going to be a disaster. Yeah, get this out of the way. Completely unnecessary to connect the RGB cables anyway. Okay. Doesn't look like I have any major spillage issues over the edges of the CPU here. Looks pretty clean. But I do need to get something to clean this off. So, and the spread, it was the key to the spread was the spatula, the plastic spatula. It does amazing things. All right, just apologies. 30 seconds. Talk amongst yourselves. I have to get some paper towels or Q-tips or something. Okay, wait, that was quick because I had some down here already. I have some 70% alcohol, because apparently 91's like non-obtainium now, and some generic, really crappy paper towels. So I will do my usual cleanup routine. I like to start at the corners and move inward to prevent spreading it down the legs of this massive IHS. So as you can see, I set the paper towel down on top of the CPU area. Then I squeeze in from the edges towards the center while, slopping thermal paste all over the place because I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, it was actually pretty clean. I use Q-tips. I just don't have any down here. It was faster to grab this paper towel than it was to grab Q-tips. Normally, I do chunks of paper towel like this to get the mass of thermal paste off. Then I go back through with Q-tips and alcohol to clean all the edges. Oh yeah, these are real legit cleaning tips. So we're going to remove the retention bracket and get the CPU out. Now this is the most harrowing part for anybody new to LGA sockets. If you've been an AMD fan for years and you've had pins on your processors, the socket was basically indestructible. Now you've got hundreds and hundreds of tiny, weak little LGA pins. If I were to pick this up and then drop it onto the socket, it's dead. And I don't have another board. I would destroy my only AM5 platform. Ah, what's with... Okay. Hold on a second. I've got to... I should probably figure out some settings for how to get rid of these adult site things. Okay. So yeah, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to get a hold of the sides of it. I'm going to pull straight out and just get it the hell out of there. And get this safely put away. As you can see, this is in fact the 7950X. And look at this. It's hilarious because if you've used Threadripper, it's just like a miniature Threadripper. It's like a tiny EPYC processor. Now we're going to open the 7900X. This AMD sample, not for resale, number 7979. It's almost like QVC, but even worse. Item number 7979. We have this AMD internal sample of the 7900X. This is a golden sample guaranteed to offer you a -30 offset or not. Or it could be bad. It might not work with an offset at all. Who knows? I'm holding lots of things over the pins. I could hold... No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to hold screwdrivers over the pins. Do I have a knife down here? Yes. You can now watch me badly injure myself live on video as I attempt to use this Swiss Army knife, which is not focusing for some reason. It's the sort of the clear plastic variety. I don't remember the name of this one. They all have names, of course. The only thing missing from this is the plastic tweezer? No, wait a minute. Do I have that? I even have the toothpick. I thought I was missing something from this, but apparently not. Yeah, I even have the little metal tweezers still. Okay. Did not know that. All right, let me pick an appropriate blade and open up this... No, I guess I'll also have to use this one. That's I don't know what I'm doing. This small one will work. The last time I used this, I cut myself. Focus. Focus. Now you'll get to experience... There, that'll protect some of it. Get to experience what it's like to open up one of these. Now the small ones... Here's a Ryzen 7 box. Looks the same from the front, but the profile, I mean, look at this. And mine was crushed in shipping, by the way. It's 1/3 the thickness of these. So you're thinking, oh, this has some kind of a cooler in it, but why? You wouldn't want to use a cooler that would fit in this box. Well, it doesn't have a cooler. It's just this. Is it it's like a magnetic closure. And then it opens up and there's your processor, and then behind that's just a bunch of foam. It's a larger box because you spent more money. And psychologically, that means you need a larger box. So you've got CPU in a clamshell, case badge, installation instructions and warranty, which by the way tells you that you void your warranty when you overclock it, of course. And then, at least I'm assuming it says that. And then a large block of dense foam. And a box. Suitable for storage or just displaying on your shelf. Now we're going to install the processor. And apply thermal paste. One thing I appreciate, and this is going to be really dumb to a lot of people, I think. The orientation, I don't like that word, but I'm going to use it. The direction in which the processor logo faces bothered me. On AM4, it was this way. That bugged me. I don't know why. You never see it once you get a cooler installed. But on this one, they've rotated it. And now, It's in line with the motherboard. It's correct. Finally. Is that seated properly? It seems to be. Then we're going to close this up. Now, I didn't hear a sickening crunch sound, which means I probably didn't just mangle the LGA pins. That's always good. So, easy to install. Don't be afraid. Just be afraid of dropping it onto the LGA pins before you've had a chance. Slop some thermal paste on there. See? Perfect application every time. No one would ever have a problem with that. But here's what we're going to do. Here's where the spatula comes in. You don't have to be precise until you start flat icing this thing with thermal paste. Now, I have been told by somebody who was a professional cake decorator that the key to flat icing a cake is using enough frosting. You don't want to be pushing down, trying to spread a thin layer of frosting, because then you're going to start taking up bits of cake. And once the cake starts to mix with the frosting, it becomes a cake crumb frosting mess. You have to start getting that out of there and starting over again with fresh cake frosting. And that's how I approach this. I'm trying to just drag the frosting, which in this case is thermal paste, gently across the surface of the thermal, what is this? IHS, integrated heat spreader. I don't want to use too much because then it'll start to trickle down the sides, which is not what you want. There. Thinly applied thermal paste. Now, because I'm a little bit paranoid about cooling with these things, I had been putting, when I finished this careful application, I put just one little dot in the center to just make sure that everything was good, but I don't think I'm going to do that this time. I do need to clean the surface of this cold plate, though, before I put it back on, because this would just make an unholy mess. It'd be way too much thermal paste. One of the worst things about cleaning these, by the way, as if you didn't know, is when you're trying to get the thermal paste. Why is it not focusing? You don't want to get thermal paste in these screws, because I don't think it affects anything. It's just, it's unsightly. So I'm always carefully trying to push the thermal paste away from the screws and then getting thermal paste on my hands. Yeah, I would normally agree with you about just reusing what's on this. Seems so wasteful to take all this thermal paste off and just throw it out, but I don't want to use too much, and I've already applied it to the CPU. So it's just, you know, it's going into a landfill, and I'm sorry about that. But these thermal paste soaked chunks of paper towel that I'm creating that are piling up off camera here, they're going to a landfill, and that's just all there is to it. I'm going to attempt to soak paper towel in alcohol off camera with one hand without spilling it all over the motherboard. There you go. Look at all the scratches on this. Yeah, turn it on. Turn it on. There are thermal limits with modern systems. I'm sure it would be fine. Plus, there's thermal paste on it. And with a heat spreader that thick, I mean, do you even need a cooler? All right, time to reinstall this. And of course, since this is using these plastic hook things, you've got to line up these thumb screw things. This is the way that the Corsair ones are too, at least for AM4. I can't wait for a better solution than this. I'm going to need a new back plate before I can use any of my existing coolers. I don't have any AM5 coolers on hand yet. Is that lined up properly? Okay, finger tightening. This one still feels a little loose on this side. I'm going to go ahead and go through it with the screwdriver as well, just to make sure. I feel like the frame rate has gotten lower on the video feed. That could just be my imagination, but it could also be the Camlink 4K heating up and causing me problems again. What was the question? What do you mean, any suggestions to what? Any curved monitors minimum 144? The AOC that I have, there's a lot of them. I don't have the exact model number at the moment. It depends on what you want. Do you want IPS, VA? I feel like with curved monitors, VA is actually a good option because it has better contrast. So deeper blacks. Problem with it is viewing angle. You go even like 10 or 15 degrees off angle and you start to see color shift. But with a curved monitor, you're not facing as much color shift because the monitor's, you know, curving with you. So I like that idea. The one I have is IPS. I'm not sure if I would go IPS again because I just don't have the black levels. Okay, I've installed a new CPU. It's the same memory, but let's see what happens with our first boot. I assure you, I did hit the power button just now. Nothing is happening at all. Well, the PSU power is on, clearly, because you can see the light here on the power button. I'll plug in my RGB lights again. Obviously, that's the key to everything. Is that all right? I think so. No? Possibly. Okay. Absolutely nothing is happening. Let's go ahead and power cycle the power supply. Okay. Should be clear. We have the power light again. There we go. I bet I didn't press it hard enough the first time. That's probably what it was. So let's all wait together, see how long it takes to boot with a new CPU. Oh, it's going to be quick. The fans just spun up, so it has loaded my settings for the max fan and pump speeds. I bet any second now you're going to see a little cursor in the top left-hand corner of your screen. No, you're not watching paint dry, you're watching thermal paste heat. Okay, graphics card. We have a light on the graphics card. I cannot impress upon you how much different the experience was with version 1.10 of the BIOS. I should downgrade and just stream that because it would be about a 20-minute long stream just to boot the thing up. Well, my options went away. I was going to hit either F2 or F1. Could just be incompatible display mode for this capture device. Okay, still waiting. No display output yet. There we go. There we go. Press F1 to run setup. I did. We'll see if it actually enters setup. I didn't get the free RAM from Micro Center. Or are you just asking the group? Baruto. Oh, now it's booting Windows. Okay, apparently I missed my chance to enter the BIOS. Which means I probably don't have my Expo memory profile enabled anymore. We'll see. Getting devices ready. That's a good sign. That means it found a new processor. No, I did not. I have not driven to Micro Center, which is about 3 hours away. If I was desperate for DDR5, I absolutely would. I have the luxury of having like 3 DDR5 kits on hand now. After waiting quite a while for DDR5, back at the X6 or Z690 launch, I should say. Okay, what processor does it say is installed in this thing? What about my memory settings? That, yeah, it reset. I have not re-entered it. I need to. The BIOS. Yeah, I'm running stock memory speed. So time to reboot again. But it is the 7900X. That part is correct. So let's all wait. Okay, here, real time. This is how long it takes to restart an AM5 system. We'll only start counting after this restarting screen goes away. There we go. So starting now. It's not quick. There's the light on the GPU. Which in most boards, powers on pretty much instantly. Okay, we're into the setup. Is this the easy mode? Yeah, it did reset. Okay, so here we are in advanced mode. We're going to have to go into Expo enabled. There's your 6030, 38, 38, 96 at 1.35 volts. Now we're going to go into advanced CPU configuration. Why not just do everything at once? We'll put in that other limit. We'll go into AMD overclocking, PBO, advanced, curve optimizer. I'm going to do all cores, negative, and then a value of 30. I'm just going to save. Oh, wait, no, one more thing. I need to, where's the, I got to go back. I'll just go to easy mode. I need to change the fans. I don't really need to change the fans. I just turn off smart fan mode to force them up to full speed. Because with benchmarking, I mean, I wouldn't do this for my own system, but for benchmarking, I don't mind the noise. I just don't want there to be any possibility I was thermally limited when I'm going to be relying on these benchmark results for about a year. Here's all the changes. And we're going to say yes. I agree that DDR5 needs to come down more to be a price that people want to pay. It's half of what it was, but I have not priced the kit AMD sent out. I imagine that 6000 CL30 is going to be pretty pricey. The Trident Z Neo stuff in the past that we've used has always been a little bit on the high side. I mean, you get what you pay for. It was Samsung B-die memory that had amazing timings. 3600 kits with CL14. Yes, R-Sharp, they are nearly twice the X570 equivalent, but consider this. You're getting 2 times as many chipsets. Under this very warm block here, which is not actively cooled on this board, you have not 1, but 2 chips. Now I have in my possession a $20 Amazon purchase here of a thermal gun. And if we look at this heat block here, actually it's not so bad right now. It's showing 37. This thing, when you actually get up and running for a little while, goes to about 60 C. It's very hot on the surface here. And I was used to all the X570 boards at launch having active cooling. And I've seen some of the mini ITX X670E pictures, and or even B650E having active cooling, but I think that's more for the PCIe 5 storage, or maybe a combination of both. Is it the latest Windows 11? I don't think it's the latest build of Windows 11. There was one build after this. When I installed Windows 11 fresh, right when I started testing for this launch, it was the current version. And there goes the Ring alarm. It was the current version, but I think there's a optional update. Let's see. Windows is not activated. Just want to make that clear. It's absolutely not activated. It's just a fresh install from a few days ago. Windows update was last checked 5 hours ago. Windows specifications. So it is 21H2. Isn't there a 22H1? Now this is wrong. It was not installed on 1/1/2022. It was installed on like 9/20 something 2022. Yeah, build is .978. It's not the absolute newest. It's 280. Okay, 260 for the RGB list. So these do not have RGB lighting. So this would be 200. 260 is not that bad for very low latency current gen memory. The two mount heatsink is as good as the 4-point-ones. I don't have an opinion on that. These don't get that hot though. I mean, they're obviously overclocked. If I go into any one of these monitoring programs, this is 6,000 CL30 at 1.35 volts. It's running at full speed. And if you look at memory temperature, and I'm obviously not running a low, I could run like Prime 95 or something and try to make it memory intensive, but where is the memory on this? GPU, fan, drive, DDR5. Okay, so we're at 31.5-ish degrees for each stick. Okay, to permanently disable updates in Windows 11. I see that question in the chat. Disconnect your computer from the internet. No, actually, there's another one. There's another way to do it. Let me bravely go online here. Let's switch views for a moment. No, I can't switch views. Darn it. Okay, you're just going to have to see my network. If you go online, my network name at home is, let's see. Available networks, Sephiroth. Connect to Sephiroth. And go into the connection properties. Make it a metered connection. I don't know why I haven't made this one private yet, but make it a metered connection. And it will not automatically install Windows updates. Period. You can manually go in and enable installing Windows updates over a metered connection, but by default, Windows 10 and 11, it might download them, but they'll just sit there forever. And you never get that update and restart, update and shut down prompt. It's as if you have Windows Update shut down. Yeah, the other solution to avoiding Windows Update is to use Linux. Those are the only two options. Because any kind of PowerShell, registry hack, all that stuff has been circumvented by Microsoft to have full unfettered access to your system at all times when connected to the internet. They've got backdoors inside of backdoors, I'm sure. So you can't escape it. It is what it is. So here is the 7900X. 7900X. If I were to enunciate. I'm noticing slightly higher temperatures at idle. Well, I guess I'm not technically at idle because I am doing stuff. But let's see what happens. Now remember, I have that offset and power limit and stuff. We're going to do the same tests. We're start with the easy one, Cinebench R23. I should turn off my TPM and BIOS. I forgot to. And 76.4. So this is running a little bit more toasty than the 7950 was. As you can see, we're right at that PPT limit of 162, right on the nose. Core power is at, well, it's 132. So the package power, 166. This is all pretty much the same as the other one. What voltage are we seeing here? Why am I not seeing that? Voltage is right here. 1.26. I feel like this might be running slightly higher voltage than the 7950X was. I'll have to look at that. I have logs. I mean, I could go in and look. Let's see. Here's my... that's with the PBO2 thing. Here's a log from HW Info 64. So core VID's just average. I guess I don't know. I was going to arrange this. I don't need to arrange it. I just need to insert a graph so I can look at this. A chart. Let's go to line chart. Helpful. It's too small to be visible, so that's extremely helpful. And it's one thing Microsoft Excel has on LibreOffice is the charts are a little nicer to work with. But we are, well, there was under load. I should put some callouts on this. Data labels. Oh, that's easy to see. That's perfect. I could reorient them. What a terrible idea this was. I should have made it a bar graph. I could rotate it. Maybe that'll make it easier. Rotate it 180 degrees. No, 90 degrees. Okay. Rotate 90 degrees. There we go. I still can't read it though. Can I just make the text smaller? Can I make this bigger? I'll make this huge. Which of course I can't see how to do that. What's this value? Anyway, yeah, voltage. 1.15 something. Let me just get rid of this graph. How do I get rid of the whole thing? It's another thing I don't really understand. No, I can't cut it. I can only copy it. All right, well, anyway, moving this graph out of the way. That can't actually be used. No, it won't go away. All right, yeah, so. String magnify. Yes. I'm not, math is not my strong point, I will admit. So anyway, I need to actually make a proper chart and show the difference between these because I think this is running at a higher voltage. Did it even take my offset? I wonder if I have to reapply. It's running one. At idle, it seems a little higher too. It was like 8 something with the other one. Matthias, I have no idea. Probably 0. It depends. I mean, depends on workplace restrictions on such things. All right, I need to run something else. Make this worthwhile. I'm not actually seeing any performance, at least in-house, on the 7900X. Only the 7950. I've done a lot of testing with the 7700X. You know, I suspect that the performance will be like a 7950X minus 4 cores. Just a thought. All right, let's look at the thermals. That's what I want to know here as Blender runs. 7800X3D. If they hadn't shown and sold the 5800X3D, people would be buying these now. But why would you buy it when you know that you'll have the fastest processor for gaming later, and you've already spent hundreds on something else? So right now we're at 1.195. Core clocks are pretty good. We're all cores, pretty much, at, let's look at this, between 5.2 and 5.4, so an average of 5.3. And thermals are closing in on 80C. Though, you know what? I wonder if my thermal paste application, I didn't put that extra dollop in the center before I installed the cooler. That could be the difference. Christian, if I'm a gamer, if I'm just a gamer, primarily, I'm not trying to use this as a workstation or something, I'm on AM4 still. Especially with high-end, like Samsung B-die memory, cheaper than it ever was before. High frequency, low latency kits. You don't have to go crazy high. 3600 is the sweet spot on AM4, so just do that. And get 32 gigs, get 64 gigs. You can get 64 gigs of DDR4 3600 for about the price of 32 gigs of like 6000 CL30 DDR5. I'm just guessing. I'm assuming that's the case. AM4, if you look at the leaked roadmap that's out there, AM4 will be part of AMD's offering through the end of this year and all next year. And there wasn't any specific mention of a mainstream non-AM4 option. I think AM5 is being treated as like a high-end enthusiast platform, at least for now. I think we may see that change over time. 3466, yeah. You'd want 3600, even if you had to loosen up those timings. Forget about the 16, 18, 16, 16. Run that at 3600 CAS 18. You will not notice a difference. I've run 3600 CL16, CL18, and we have a CL14 kit that I use for most of the benchmarks and the GPU test bench. You can see the difference if you run 8/64 memory throughput, and you can see it in 7-zip. You don't need low latency if you're running at 1800, because they're megahertz. You want 3600 megatransfers per second. You need to match that F clock. You want to get the F clock up to 1800 on Zen 3. That's where you get that performance boost on your whole system. So that's why latency is just not that important, in my opinion. I'm very curious. Later, after the stream is over, I will reapply thermal paste, or at least add a bit of thermal paste, and tighten this down even more, and see if it was just how ridiculously hard I had clamped the other one down with that little bit of extra thermal paste. Was that making the difference in these thermals? Or is the 7900X just a little bit hotter than the 7950? Is this frozen? Oh, hey, it's frozen. Okay, so we have discovered something. It did crash. It's not doing anything. So I can't do that -30 offset on this one. It's crashing in Blender just like it did for Hardware Unboxed. I guess I just have a golden 7950X. Dang it. I wanted to have some kind of a scoop. Like the magic formula. It's the 125 watts plus the... No. No. Smarter people than me have already figured this out. No. Oh, I missed it. I missed my chance to get into the BIOS. You wait. This is the problem with this. You wait so long. You're conditioned to wait so long for this thing to boot that by the time it finally does initialize, I'm constantly late on the keyboard. I should just be mashing F2 from the moment I turn it on. You're right. The 16-core chips, because they have to bin them to run at the highest clocks. I never understood this with the 5950X either. Why is your 16-core part also the one that hits your highest clocks? If people are buying 16 cores, they're probably using more multi-threaded applications. They're not going to be running at those high boosts because they're going to be using all the cores. If you don't need all those cores, get an 8-core. I know, because money. Well, it's F2 or delete on this motherboard. It says press F2 or delete. All right. Still nothing. I'm still waiting. You can't quite see it because these cables are in the way. I should have moved this so you can see the number readout. You can see the post codes. We're on what, 37, 36. Is this a countdown? Oh yeah, it's actually live, Buff. We're on post code 36 right now. We're live with the Meg X670E Ace motherboard with postcode 36. Or, you know what? I bet it's not postcode 36. I bet that's actually the current temperature. And it's booted to Windows. No, it hasn't. Okay. Something's wrong. I think something may actually be wrong. I think it's CPU temp. I think I'm just not getting a display. Okay, let's start this over again. From the top. It's a Silverstone cooler, and it's a 360. This is Silverstone's frosty logo, the permafrost logo. $79.50X or bust. You know what? I agree with you, Peter Jansen. That's basically the narrative of my review. I was just going to do a separate review for the 7950X because to me, this is the processor for this platform. I'm not talking about every platform, but if you're getting X670E, if you're spending $600 on a motherboard, get the $700 processor with 16 cores and the really high clocks and the better binning, the potential to run at lower voltage and get the same or better performance. I would not buy this board and get any lower processor than the 7950X. If I'm doing that, I'm buying a non-E or I'm getting the B650E. Why am I so interested? Lawn Dog? Because I am a skeptic and I am a little concerned with the longevity of this 5 nanometer silicon running at 95C all the time. it is designed to run at these high temperatures, but for how long? I mean, what if this was Intel? Everybody would be screaming BS. If Intel came out and said, our new 13th gen core, it runs at 100 degrees. It's designed to. That's where it wants to be. I think people would be crying BS. It's because of the power draw. You couldn't do any better. Yeah. So, I don't know. And CPU configuration. AMD overclocking. PBO. Curve optimizer. We'll get real careful here and go with 10. I just I did a news post on these processors after I had a revision to the reviewer's guide AMD sent out to all the media, and the quote that I put in the news post was it was crazy. It was something about the processor knows, you know, it acted like somehow this was like an AI thing, like somehow it was going to optimize everything, and it wanted to be at that temperature for maximum performance. And then Der Bauer on day one comes out with his delidding video and shows, well, actually, performance scales with lower temperatures. So I don't know what that's all about. I know I'm not going to be delidding this. If I can get it to run a little bit cooler with that offset, great. But now I'm a little concerned about stability because I've had Blender crash. When does performance options affect temps? Yes, because if it's on the high power mode, then it doesn't clock down as much. So I have it set to high performance. If I did balanced, I believe the CPU, the processor power management is different. Like the minimum and maximum processor states are probably different. No, maybe not. It's still 0. Yes, that we think that's how transistors work, but AMD said that that's not how Zen 4 works. That it needs to be 95C, and then everything will just take care of itself. All right, so we are still running a little hot. That voltage obviously higher now that the offset's not as aggressive. We're at 1.279 as a max. Let me try running Blender again. Okay, let me get the actual quote. I mean, what could go wrong? I'll just go online and get the quote right here. The performance is a little slow during this benchmark, I've noticed. This will help test stability. Let's go to pcper.com. And go to news. There's the article on the delidding thing where I put in that quote. In the Ryzen 7000 series, the processor is designed to run at TJ max 24/7 without risk of damage or deterioration. At 95 degrees, it is not running hot. Rather, it will intentionally go to this temperature as much as possible under load because the power management system knows that this is the ideal way to squeeze the most performance out of the chip without damaging it. Now, what Hardware Unboxed noted, and I haven't tried a small cooler yet, is that with the Wraith Spire or whatever cooler he was using, it was going over 100 degrees. But the performance was still pretty much there. So this is fine. This is totally fine. Speaking of fine, this isn't so bad. That's 77.3, as long as it doesn't actually freeze this time. But if I were to take away the voltage offset and the power limit, you'd be seeing 90 to 95. In fact, probably 95 with this one for sure. Seems stable with Blender. I mean, we didn't get this far last time, but I don't have to make you sit through another entire Blender run. I just want to see real quick before I end this stream exactly how hot this one runs with this cooler at stock settings. Forget this PBO stuff that I'm not knowledgeable about. I'm just copying what I saw in an Optimum Tech video. Just run it the way that AMD intended. That's how I'm going to run it when I benchmark it anyway. I benchmark 100% stock. The only thing that I deviate from in this case is the memory, because they sent a 6000 CL30 kit, so I'm going to use a 6000 CL30 kit. I finally gave in and started doing all the AM4 platform benchmarks with 3600 memory, because why not? I mean, it's inexpensive enough at this point. Why wouldn't you get 3600 if you're on Zen 3? I used to try to run absolutely bone stock, and if the memory standard was 2666, then I would run 2666, and it's just irrelevant. I'm not a non-tech. I'm not creating like a huge database of benchmarks. I end up trashing the stuff after about a year and starting over again. So we'll go to auto. And auto. Now, I think that from what AMD has said, that there are internal to the CPU, the actual power management. I don't know if that's CPU or if it's BIOS, who knows, but power management for the CPU is a lot more intelligent than I'm giving it credit for, as you can witness by seeing those crazy results that Hub got with just a bone stock air cooler. The temperatures go really high, and it still finds a way to keep boost speeds as high as possible. If it was just a straight thermal throttling threshold, I wish this had existed back in the FX 9590 era, because I tried benchmarking the FX 9590. I borrowed the chip and the fatality board that Ryan had at the old office, and I took it home, and I could not get it to stop thermal throttling. I had the best cooler I had in the house at the time was like it was the H105 from Corsair. It was a particular sample that was like an overperforming sample. It was the best cooler I'd ever tested to that point. And I had it running 100%, and the thing would just throttle like crazy. I could not get a straight line out of any frequency test. It was like a seesaw, up and down as it throttled and tried to manage frequency. Let's see. Current temperature at idle, according to the motherboard, is 45. Yeah, 44.8 has been the high. No, 47.6. Okay. And we are at 1.192 volts max. I wonder if I did the offset the opposite way. Maybe I had it on a positive and not negative without even realizing it. Let's just see how hot this thing gets stock. And then I'm going to end the stream. Look at the enhanced numbers here. So we're at 85.1, 85.6. Okay. I actually have IGPU disabled in the BIOS, and I wonder, actually, now that I have, you know what? That could be part of the slightly higher temps on at idle, because when I did all my previous benchmarking, I had manually disabled iGPU, but when I installed the new CPU, reset the BIOS, I bet iGPU is re-enabled. Which I could easily check by going to the device manager, and there'll be some second video device. Oh, yep, there it is. So iGPU is enabled right now, unfortunately. So I'll have to disable that before I do any actual benchmarking. And of course, not running utilities like this, which rob you of performance, even if it's only 1 or 2%. When I benchmark, I run with the absolute minimum number of processes. I don't have any extra applications loaded with Windows. I double check for like rogue processes that could be running. I'll go through here and make sure like Microsoft Edge update or some crap isn't running. I benchmark offline if I can, just to reduce the number of processes. Here's Edge update. Well, there it disappeared again. But like Photos. Why is Photos? I mean, it's not using any. Oh, it's using a little bit of memory. So all this extra stuff gets killed. I wait for a cooldown. I run the benchmark. I cool it down again. Everything's an average of 3 runs, just standard stuff. This isn't too bad. We're not even hitting 90, and I've been doing other things. The 7950X at stock was always going over 90 and going up towards 95. And actually, the toastiest one so far was the 7700X. Believe it or not, the 8-core, which makes sense because the hottest Zen 3 CPU was the 5800X. Those single CCD processors, I don't know what it is about it, if it's just like imbalance on the surface of the IHS or something. They tend to run really hot. Oh, yeah. I believe that you would get higher scores in just about anything under Linux because it has a lower overhead, for sure. I've done this. I've run Blender under Ubuntu Linux on the same system as Windows 10, and you always get higher scores under Linux. It's just a more efficient operating system. So this is pretty good. We're running about 3 degrees C cooler than the temperatures I was seeing on the 7950X stock. Totally fine. Now the fan noise is not great. I don't know if you can hear that. I'll move the microphone over here and turn up the... Here's your fan noise. It's about 40 dBA. Not ideal 24/7, but on this one I'd be willing to lower the fan speed a little bit. These fans are at about 2,000 RPM. That's their limit. The pump's going about 3,300, I think. I mean, I could check right here easily enough. So 2,000 on the fans, about 3,300 on the pump. So I could lower these fans down to like 1,000, 1,200 maybe, and it probably wouldn't be that big of an issue since the radiator surface area is so large. Put some quieter fans on here, put some Noctua fans on it or something. Anyway, yeah, the 7900X, I need to disable that iGPU And actually start benchmarking. Oh, you're like not as good with Linux. Is that because of Windows 11's tight integration with the core scheduler or whatever? Thread scheduling. The restart times really do kind of get to me after a while. I would love it if I could just keep this system up and running for days. Because it takes a while just to restart, and it takes even longer to boot up. Okay, there we go. Motherboard settings. Advanced. Where is it here? Integrated graphics configuration. Disabled. I don't know if it gates off power, but I think it might lower temperatures just a hair, since you're not relying on CPU graphics. Not that we were anyway, but it had both enabled. I feel like that boot was faster. Maybe I'm crazy. Where's my thermal gun here? Let's check out the... You know what? They're really not that bad. It's not bad for the skin temperature of the top of this heatsink. It is quite warm to the touch, though. How hot is this GPU? 40. 42. These VRMs don't really get hot either. Like, I've seen a few mentions now in our chat about our Discord about running without heat sinks, and I was a little surprised because Drew Bauer in one of his more recent videos, I think it was when he was overclocking and doing temperature scaling. It was the video he did after the delidding video. He wasn't running any heat sinks on the VRM, and he said it's actually fine. You don't need them. Alright, well, this system is up and running again. Real quick, I just want to see those idle temps. If I have the right mouse, there we go. No, they're about the same. Is voltage lower? I wonder if we would see lower overall temperatures by just a degree or so with the IGPU. What? Is it not open? Open recent classroom top blend. What was the max before? Like 87? Let's check the clocks here. Right here it says that core clocks are at 5.142. That's average. Let's see what CPU-Z has to say about that. Since, of course, this is reporting the wrong frequency of 95.3. Yeah, this shows a higher clock. 5226, 5240, 5249. So yeah, I don't trust the clocks in HW info. I'm assuming that thermals are accurate. Speaking of Wendell, Peter. Crazy thought. I was watching Wendell's video on the launch. I hadn't watched that yet. while I was waiting for my son in the school pickup line today. And I just, his take on AMD stuff, it feels very polished, like he prepares, he does the research, he talks to the right people. I suspect he would be a great candidate for the technical marketing position at AMD now that Halleck is gone. I vote for him. I'm going to call Lisa tonight, and I'm just going to say, hey, it's me, and she'll know who that is, because we're on that kind of a basis with each other. And say, Wendell, level 1 techs? Yeah, Wendell. Robert Halleck's job, have you filled it yet? And she'll say, well, I have a couple internals. I'm like, no, forget it. You want this guy. Pay him whatever he asks. I mean, he could be a consultant. I mean, that's not as... I don't know. That's probably better for him. He can, not relocate and still get paid. Looks like thermals are just about exactly the same, so I was completely wrong about them affecting thermals. The IGPU is now disabled, at least I think it is. I told it to. Yeah, it's disabled. Okay, well, anyway. A little under 88C in a room, now that I've waited a while for this to normalize. See, it was nowhere near. That was insane. The actual temperature in here is around 22C, which is normal. All right, well, this has been a live stream of some shape and description. Some type and description? I don't know. I just touched a fan. That was not smart. Okay, well, I'm going to shut this down. Thanks, everybody. I don't know how many people are watching. I should probably look at that. It always amazes me that anybody does. But I'm grateful anyway. Let's see. Let's look at the stats in YouTube Studio here. Analytics. 80 people. 86 people watching the stream. It's ridiculous. All right, well, the stream will be available as an archive at youtube.com/PCPer. Thanks so much for watching. I am hitting the end stream button now.